politics, business, sports, arts, music. Mike and Marty on the feed. Mike and Marty. Mike and Marty.
Good morning, community, and welcome to the feed. It is Wednesday, May 11th, and it's going to be a little different version of the feed today. Mike is doing some paid time off, so he's not here, but I'm here with Eileen Charbonneau and Bill Lockwood of the Terrace Players. So we're actually going to do some readings for you. But first, Bill and Eileen, could you tell me a little bit about how did the Terrace Players come about?
Well, first, after I retired, I'm a retired social worker. And when I retired in 2016, I got a novel published. And before that, I'm a cancer survivor, and I lost my voice partly. So I couldn't really do a reading at the bookstore. So I recruited a couple of amateur theater people to actually read the parts of the book. And I started doing that as I wrote some more books. I've got 5 out now. And then during the time, this other author moved to Westminster Terrace in Bellows Falls. We both live on the terrace. So she joined me to do some readings recently. Eileen Charbonneau here.
Hence the name, Terrace Players. We all kind of live on the terrace. Bill and I both come out of an educational and community theater background, and we love working with actors and bringing our books to life in a really special way throughout the community.
Awesome. So today you've seen Eileen and Bill. You'll also be seeing Sam Maskell, Lisa Bryan, Ed Gullo, Samaria Aldrich, Jeannie Levesque, and they will be reading from Eileen's book, Rachel Lemoine, Gare de Lyon, which is by Bill Lockwood, The Monsignor's Agent by Bill Lockwood, and Death at Little Mound. So without further ado, I bring you the Terrace Players.
From Rachel Lemoine, The Port of New Orleans. The year is 1847.
You are our own dusky angel, Rachel, dear, Miss Wakefield said, and your kind heart is our inspiration. The Home Office is so pleased.
Rachel did not feel that she was an angel of any color. She had only wanted to help feed the starving Irish she had read about, the ones who reminded her of her own people. She did not want to leave Choctaw territory, or to spread a religion whose precepts she still needed guidance on herself. But her brother Atoka had dreamed of her where she stood now, on the bow of an American sail and steamship about to head out into the Gulf of Mexico and across the great Atlantic. Rachel breathed in the sea air and searched the dock for the last sight of her brother.
I do hope we have not left him to drink and gamble on the streets of this wicked city, never to reach home again. You must pray for his salvation, Rachel.
How could she speak of her brother that way, after he and his friends had hauled sacks of their surplus corn crop on and off riverboats from the Arkansas to the Mississippi to New Orleans? Rachel searched the docks. Perhaps he was gone already. No, there he was, carefully balancing himself on the rim of a rain barrel above the crowd. Their father's red shirt graced his shoulders. The river wind picked up his black hair and sent it skimming off his shoulders, all except the braid he had cut off and given to her, and she had pinned close to her heart. He was singing, loud, beautiful, in Choctaw.
You will be running to the corners of the world, to where the land meets the big water, to where the sky meets the land, to where the home of winter is, to the home of the rain. Run, sister, be strong, for you are the mother of a people.
He sang it 4 times, giving her a new woman's ceremony, years late, years after she had followed the advice of the missionaries and declined it. Running with the other newly menstruating girls, then dancing and feasting would be a sin against Jesus, they said. But Jesus was a kind man who loved children, who loved Atoka in his wildness. Rachel felt sure. She asked Jesus to look after her brother while she was gone. She felt Sarah Wakefield's hand on her shoulder.
What is he saying, child?
A prayer.
Blasphemy.
No, Miss Wakefield.
I do not have a proficient command of the language, but I know all the translations of our Christian prayers in Choctaw. That is not one of them.
It is not a Christian prayer.
That brazen boy, we must counter his wickedness. She leafed through the prayer book in her hand. Here we are. Our efforts will continue until the waters of life flood over every part of the earth, washing the bloody temples of paganism, quenching the fires on horrid altars, saving the brute from debasement. Miss Wakefield's book closed with a thud. You must pray harder for your brother's salvation. There is always hope.
What Rachel hoped was that Miss Wakefield would not talk about Atoka's salvation in the last moments she saw her brother's straight, proud form, his hand raised in silent farewell to his sister, a new woman.
Mary O'Reilly grew up in the 1930s South Boston. She was a descendant of Irish immigrants, as were most of her working-class neighbors. She studied hard, showed talent, and the good nuns who taught her got her a scholarship to study art in college. There she was encouraged to study further in Paris. She took the challenge, and she much enjoyed the student life. She studied hard, and she began calling herself Marie. She began posing as a figure model and selling the odd painting on the sidewalk to make her way. Then in 1939, war was declared. Things changed. The Nazis occupied Paris, and her art school closed. She took a job in a bread shop. There she quickly discovered that the proprietor was part of the Resistance. Marie began delivering their messages. After the bread shop was raided, she was sent from Paris, escorting a downed RAF pilot toward freedom by way of Lyon.
She found the little group of houses and shops, with its church, just as Monsieur Claude had described it. It all reminded her of something out of some storybook. Again, she thought that if she didn't know better, one would never imagine there was a war going on. Marie went up the steps to the open door of the small country church. Père Richard was at the altar, busying himself with some papers he had spread out there. Marie walked down the center aisle and stopped at the altar rail. "Pierre?" she said. He turned with a questioning look. "Who are you, my dear?" Marie figured she should use her Resistance name. "I am Antoinette." "Ah, yes," the older man said, as if he recognized her. "A visitor from Paris." "Oui." She opened her purse and pulled out her cigarette pack, and Madame Bouchard's letter as well. She handed the cigarette pack to the priest, after glancing quickly around. They were completely alone, so she added, "Inside, there's a message for you." "Oui," the priest nodded, and the cigarette pack disappeared quickly into a pocket of his sack. There was a moment of silence. The priest glanced around as Marie had done. They were still alone in the church. "They tell me you are American." "Oui." "Your country has not yet entered the war. We are waiting. We need your help." "I don't have any influence on that." The older man smiled, and there was something about that smile that reminded her of all the kindly old priests of her childhood. She hadn't had all that much contact with them, actually, but this man seemed to be one she could talk to, so she admitted, "I don't pay much attention to politics. My role with you as a messenger was discovered in Paris. The Germans have my name. I am on the run. They sent me to help an RAF pilot find his way here." "I know. I was told of your arrival." Marie didn't know whether to take that fact as good or bad. "So, the plane came last night, and you were attacked. Then it flew back to London?" "Yes, you have heard the latest. The plane did not land. The RAF man is still here." The priest looked troubled. Then he relaxed, and it turned into an expression of resignation. "I must read the message you brought me. I am sure it is a full report." There was a silence again. They were still alone. Marie decided to ask, "Can I ask you a question as a priest?" "I am a priest. Please ask." Then she went ahead and poured out what was most on her mind. "I don't know if you've heard this part or not, but last night I caused a man to be shot and killed. Everyone is telling me there is a war, but I must know if you think it is a sin." "Ah, my child, tell me more. There is certainly a war. The circumstances are important. Marie quickly explained what had happened with Albert the night before, and the priest thought a moment before he replied, "There is a special place in hell for traitors, my dear. I don't think our dear Lord would have any problem with what you did." "Thank you, Father." Marie let out a long breath. "Now I feel much better. Like everyone says nowadays, this is a war, this is not a game. That is exactly what Monsieur Claude told me. He is a wise man." Marie frowned. "I don't like him much," she admitted. "We need not like everyone we must follow. That is part of war too. Would you like me to give you absolution?" Marie almost smiled. "Oh, I don't know about that. I've done so many things in my life in Paris, and maybe even before, that I'm likely too far gone." "My child, no one is ever too far gone in the eyes of God." "Well, we'll have to see. I don't think this will be the only message they'll send me with. I'll let you know." "As you wish." The priest dismissed the matter with a wave of his hand.
From the Monsignor's agents. Allison, a young U.S. Army intelligence officer stationed in Rome, is loaned to the Vatican for the 1983 anniversary of the 1981 and 1982 assassination attempts on the Pope. They're concerned that someone will try again. Allison is sent to the Mediterranean island of Malta to make contact with the suspect. First, she must meet with Max, an American who was stranded in Malta when the rock band he was a drummer for had its European tour go bust. Max is tending bar to raise the funds to get him and his drums home. He's been told that Allison will appear by a Father Timothy from the Vatican, or perhaps from the CIA. Max must introduce Allison to her next contact.
"Okay, here we go," she said to herself. She took a hold of the door handle, took a deep breath of the hot, humid air, tossed back her hair, and opened the door. Immediately she saw the bar was a remnant from the old days of British rule. Allison noted the regulars clustered at the other end of the bar and climbed up on the first stool inside the door. It was the same stool Father Timothy had occupied on his visit just a day before. Max immediately came down to meet her. "What'll it be?" he asked, and he gave her a broad smile. "Glass of white wine," she said, and ran a hand across her forehead. The 3 whirling ceiling fans seemed to be having no effect at all on the heat in the room. "Something from a local vineyard?" Max asked. He glanced over his shoulder at the long line of bottles on shelves along the wall. Allison frowned. "I've heard all the local wines have an aftertaste." "Haven't you tried the local wine yet?" Max asked. "You just get in?" "I've been in Rome," Allison said. "I flew here this morning." Max looked back around. "If I was a local, I'd give you an excellent green label Vitus made from grapes tended by the descendants of the Grand Master Jean Paraissot de la Valette himself." Allison did not respond to Max's flourish, but he continued nonplussed. "Of course, it's not the vivant détente of wines." "What?" Allison looked puzzled. Max shrugged and smiled. "You like that? I just made it up." "Bartenders," she rolled her eyes. "Sounds French. Sometimes tourists like that stuff." "They didn't tell me the bartender here was a comedian." Ted Gist looked down at the girl crouching in the trench. He became lost in the swirling red pattern of the kerchief tied around her black hair. With a dry paintbrush and infinite patience, she dusted around the small skull of the skeleton. She turned and looked up at him.
"Hey, haul some of this dirt out."
Sure."
"You wearing sunblock?"
"No."
"You'd better put some on." She shielded her eyes. You don't even have a farmer's tan.
A farmer's...
Just arms and neck.
She was right. Playing computer games since his family's move to the South hadn't contributed to his color or his conversation skills. I guess I have a buffalo tan.
Buffalo? But that would be very dark, to be like the buffalo.
The city, not the animal. I'm from Buffalo, New York. Plenty of snow, not a lot of sun.
Oh, are you not the assistant Dr. Hamilton promised me?
She thought he was some college guy? Cool. I'm just visiting.
Well, come down into the shade, Buffalo Man. We put our visitors to work.
Tad tried to think of an excuse not to climb down into that trench, one that wouldn't make him sound like a wimp or a jerk. Inspiration didn't strike. He descended. The trench widened into a chamber. He caught a peripheral view of a skeleton on its stone bier, a string of copper beads across its ribcage. He didn't want to look directly at those bones or let go of the girl's hand, so he shook it. I'm Tad. My father's Dr. Stan Geis, new anthropologist at Morris University. My mother's Kelsey Doyle. She just got a job at Current News Network. We moved to Atlanta near the university. That's about 90 miles south of here. I was half asleep in the car. Let go of her, he told his grasping fingers. Either all you can do is grunt or else you can't shut up. The girl gave his hand a firm shake.
I am Linda, daughter of Naomi Aniwaya, clan mother of the Snowbird Cherokee. My father is James Tassel. We live near Cartersville. Aren't we formal down here in the mud? Linda looked at the skeleton. This is the person I devote my time to here. I call her Talala.
Tad forced himself to look at the bones on the slab. The small skeleton was huddled, knees toward chest. Talala, he said. What does that mean?
Woodpecker, because I believe she was a pipe stem carver, an artist who pecks to find her vision in the stone.
Wasn't this a child?
No, Talala is a woman. The people of this land were smaller then, 500 years before Columbus landed. The mound builders were of the culture the scientists call Mississippian. Archaeologists have done extensive work at the Etowah site, so didn't think these mounds were worth preserving. You know, seen one outpost of ancient Mississippian civilization, seen them all? Then Morris University got involved. We are so grateful, Tad.
Tad remembered about the time constraints brought on by the dam project. That was one of the reasons his family had to move so quickly.
Talala was buried in a fashion that befits a craftsperson. I found tools at her head and many ceremonial pipe stems around her. They were carved in the forms of the frog, the owl, the turtle. See?
She showed him a sketchbook full of accurate, detailed pencil drawings. The collection went beyond good craftsmanship. Linda Tassel was an artist.
Maybe when this woman died, they buried her with some of her own work. Do you think that makes sense, Tad?
Sure, why not?
Why not exactly? Tad, I don't know that name. Are you a good swimmer then? Named after the tadpole?
No, it's short for Thaddeus.
Thaddeus. She pronounced carefully. How exotic.
A girl with her head wrapped in a red turban dusting bones was calling him exotic? My grandfather had his last name shortened to Gist after he immigrated from Poland, Tad explained. The family's been making up for it in fancy first names ever since.
I like that tradition. And the name's meaning?
Well, Thaddeus, it's the Polish form of Thaddeus. It means courageous.
I like that too.
Maybe it was not so bad to be exotic, Tad thought.
Well, that was awesome. Big round of applause, studio
Wonderful.
audience too,
Thank
for the Terrace players. So, in doing a little research about all of your books, I was curious how you seem to have a wide array of characters, a wide array of settings, a wide array of storylines. How do you come up with all that?
I think what Bill and I have in common is we look at pieces of American history that kind of haven't been covered, that are kind of in the footnotes, and try to illuminate them and the people who come out of them. Rachel Lemoine is based on very little known fact of American history is that the Irish were helped during their Angkor Tamor, the Great Hunger, by the Choctaw people, who were only 11 years from their own Trail of Tears. So these were poor people, American people, helping a poor Irish people. And I said, oh, there's a story in that. And I wanted to illuminate it in a personal way.
Nice.
Yeah, and I like the obscure things, the things that aren't like big, like in the Monsignor's Agents, I use Malta. Who's ever heard of Malta? Maybe you've heard of it. And the Vatican having secret agents has always just fascinated me. That they probably do. I mean, I don't know that they do, but they probably do.
I think they probably do.
Yeah,
Just
it's
going
not
to
just
confirm on
Swiss
that.
Find out.
like
They'd have to kill you to find out.
I was impressed. I went to the Tower of London in the mid-'70s when the Irish of the IRA, which I wrote another book about, was doing bombs and things. And the guy dressed up in the shako and the red suit and all at the little guard box. It's an ancient uniform, but he had a modern assault rifle. And it just, yeah.
Juxtaposition.
Juxtaposition, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I know that your newest, and is Death at Lemoine your newest book?
Uh-huh.
That is a young adult book.
It's
is
a young
that
adult
is that a
book,
new
yeah.
genre for you to be writing in?
It's not new. I started writing in
Okay.
young adult, then historical novels, and then I went to a whole series of adult novels, and now I'm back in the mystery field, mystery young adult, and really enjoy it. It came from my love of Nancy Drew, which a lot of
I was
ladies
gonna
out
ask
there.
you.
I said, wouldn't it be great to have a Nancy Drew who's a Cherokee?
when I read the synopsis of it, I said, "Oh my God, it sounds like a Nancy Drew series."
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool. So, which leads me to the next question: how do you come up with your character names?
Oh, I don't know. It just strikes me, oh, this is a good name. I don't have, I've never named anybody Jeannie, my wife's name, or anything really close, like some of our relatives, because I don't want them to think I'm talking about them,
It's true.
Good.
But I don't know.
Good policy.
The name just seems to fit sometimes.
Is that
I love, because I write historical novels, I love visiting graveyards and finding names from that period, and they're often just wonderful, like in our own Rockingham. and that fits in my time period. Let's have an Ezekiel. Let's have an Isaiah in here. Yeah.
That's awesome. So, if people are looking to find your books, where can they find them?
Well, how we got together was through Pat Fowler, our wonderful local bookseller, who put us together at a signing, and that's how we met each other and became Mutual Admiration Society, Bill and I. So you can always find our books there and in the library and, at any of your local bookstores or online, because, of course, they're all now digital.
Yeah,
Which is great because that allowed me to research really quickly and get all the synopsis. And Bill, you want to speak a little bit about you have an upcoming
Yeah,
reading?
my next one is called Fourth Century with a question mark, and it's set on the California coast in the wake of the Manson panic about break-ins and all. And it has to do with some faked break-ins and a nosy neighbor who becomes a vigilante. And on the 17th, June 17th, at 6 o'clock, there'll be a reading of that at the bookstore with the Terrace players. They don't know about it yet. They just haven't.
They haven't got their parts
But,
yet, but they'll take them.
We're going to have it that day, that night.
Awesome. So if you're looking to get any of the books, go to the Village Square Booksellers. Please make sure you attend the reading. Readings are fun anyway, and you get to talk. Do you then talk about your process and question and answer? Is that usually how the
Yeah.
readings?
Yeah.
Question and answer. And I would just like to have the Terrace players come back in real briefly so they can take a bow, and that will be the end of our show. And I thank you so much for coming, and I thank you, audience, for tuning in. We'll see you next week on the feed. Come on in and
Thank
take
you
a
for
bow.
having us.
Come on in and take a bow. Just wanted to get yeah, it's okay.
Joy's in front. You'll in.
Bye.